Good evening. The world of football and sport in general was rocked yesterday with an announcement by Europe's premier investigating agency Europol that match fixing was rampant in football all across the globe. Not just at the club level, but national games, European leagues and even the globally popular Champions League are not above the scanner anymore. Releasing the findings of an 18-month probe that threatens the very integrity of the game, officials from Europol have claimed that a crime syndicate based in Singapore was involved in fixing the results of over 600 games in Europe, Africa, Asia and Latin America between 2008 and 2011. While gambling and match fixing linked to Asian betting syndicates and organized crime has vexed football for years now, the scope of the corruption outlined in Monday's report was unprecedented, not just for the beautiful game, but for all professional team sports. Europol said that more than 400 individuals from 15 countries, including players, were involved in suspicious matches in Europe. Individual bribes were, in some cases, according to Europol, higher than $100,000, and fixers would place bets on the tainted matches through bookmakers in Asia as well. Europol did not publicly identify the ringleader of the Asian syndicate, but sources have pointed out to a known ringleader known as Dan Tan, also wanted in Italy in connection with the scandal that rocked Italian football some years ago. Interpol has issued an international arrest warrant for Tan, but Tan has not yet been detained. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight on The Big Picture, we talk about the ugliness of fixing in the beautiful game and try to go beyond just football. We, as always, will look at the big picture. Is it possible to separate corruption from professional sport anymore? Is professional sports, watched by millions across the globe, just too good an opportunity to be missed by gamblers, fixers and the ilk? And is there a way of keeping these elements in check? And to discuss all of this and more, joining me tonight on the panel will be Pradip Magazine, senior sports journalist, Rakesh, Batabayal, eminent historian. Also joining us in just a bit will be Arun, Bhagat, former chief of the CBI and the IB. Also joining me in the studio is Siddhanth, Aney, editor of the Sports Illustrated India magazine. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. I'd like to start with Mr. Magazine, if I could. We in South Asia are no strangers to match fixing, albeit in a different sport. And it's not like fixing scandals in football or anything new. We all know about the Italian Serie A scandals. Most top-tier clubs were suspended for a while there in Italy. But this investigation, codenamed Operation Veto, has revealed a gigantic chain, a humongous network that traverses even continents. This is going to be very difficult to come back from for international football.
Well, first of all, like as you said earlier, that corruption, we know what corruption is all about in sports, especially we in South Asia and we in India. But to get to football, yes, there has been corruption in football. There have been allegations and even players have been caught earlier. But the reach of this scandal, the kind of reach, they are saying even Champions League matches are fixed. It just goes to show that money, the greed for money has multiplied to levels where the players, the officials, the people who trap them, see, you give a player 50 lakh rupees, but the person who's giving that 50 lakh probably earns 50 crores.
Right, much more than that.
So the spread and breadth of this corruption is so huge. I think everyone in the society probably needs to even relook at the fact that has greed become an overriding factor in every walk of life, and sports has not been immune to it, and sports also is firmly in the trap of that greed and that money-making wheel.
Absolutely. That's a pertinent point that you raised there. I want to explore that anthropological perspective also, but that's just in a bit. I'll come to you, Rakesh. I want to go to Siddhanth first. First, a reaction on the news, Siddhanth. You were a traveling sports journalist, and since I've known you for years, I know that we share a common love for the beautiful game. I'm sure it saddened you when the news broke, but the question is, did it surprise you at all?
Well, to an extent, there is a lack of information still, because if you watched the conference, the officials are still not committing on how many of the cases that the numbers that they're stating right now, are they inclusive of numbers that have already been brought up in previous investigations or not. So we're not sure of how massive the sort of scale is and whether these are all new instances. But people like Wilson Raj Perumal, the Singapore syndicates that have been involved in betting, all of this, it's not surprising at all. And I think perhaps, yeah, an anthropological perspective will be interesting, because I think two aspects. One is the rise of China very rapidly and the huge betting industry that exists, both legal and illegal in Asia. I mean, figures like $450 billion have been quoted, plus the internet. So you can bet on a game that's happening anywhere in the world, sitting anywhere yourself.
Right.
So, I mean,
It's also interesting they haven't really publicly named anyone yet. And that's also something we should wait for before we actually go into it.
Sure.
Absolutely. Rakesh, I want to come to you now. Wherever there is money, and there is a lot of money in professional football, there will always be cheating, and it is the root cause of all evils. So said a former disgraced football star, Peter Swan, who himself was banned for fixing. It's human nature then, Rakesh, isn't it? It's just too good an opportunity to be missed by individuals and organized crime syndicates to let just sport be sport. Do you agree?
You see, human nature, as philosophers over the centuries have classified, one set of philosophers would argue that human nature by nature itself is greedy. The others would say no, and Gandhi would be one of them. Say, no, it's not by human nature. But leave aside the nature, because that's still in the domain of debate. What is happening is that sports is not, why is it that sport was kept out of larger human sensitivities of greed and other things? Because sports, in fact, reflected certain basic ethos of community living. So when in Athens, it was the nation, the city-states ethics was reflected. So they would fight with each other for honors. When it became communities, village community would, so there was a village ideology, so there was a village sport, and there's a village competition.
Right.
Now we have actually the Europe, in fact this sporting, all this greed and everything should have come first in Europe, because there communities were broken and it was a process of individuation where the self becomes so important. It will gradually, now self was important and therefore a sportsman, it was just representing himself, but it was not. What the capitalist system over the last 300, 400 years has been doing is gradually converting every individual self into a consumer or consumable item.
Right.
Now once you are a consumer, you are not liable to uphold the dignity, ethics or whatever, because nation has no sanctity now. Community has no sanctity. Even the self is
down
if the self is desanctified. So there's nothing called sanctity anywhere. So why is it that we have still hopes for sports?
Right.
I think that is the major debate. Why is it sports? In fact, for us also, if we, and the idea that the rich nations, the rich sports should be more sanctimonious, and poors are, that is also broken down. The poor are as corrupt as rich.
Absolutely. I take your point. I take your point. I've been joined by Mr. Arun Bhagat on the show. Many thanks, Mr. Bhagat, for joining us on The Big Picture. Mr. Bhagat, of course, is former director of the CBI as well as the IB. Sir, from a policing and an investigative perspective, what can the authorities really do to check fixing and bribing and illegal betting syndicates and crime rings? And more importantly, Mr. Bhagat, I want to ask you, should the police and the investigative agencies get involved on suspicion? Or do you think that the police, their job comes only after either there is a suspicion of illegal wrongdoing or some evidence of wrongdoing? Where do you stand on that?
Well, you see, I would say that a little bit of preventive action is necessary. Now, that may not be intrusive, but certainly they can gather intelligence. After all, there is a lot of criminal intelligence which is available, and there are police sources in virtually every type of criminal activity, or at least there should be. And therefore, I feel that a very civil, a very subtle surveillance has to be kept.
Right.
Because you know that these are the areas which attract a lot of criminals and criminal activity. After all, racing is one area, I think, which they have put some curbs on that, because of the presence of CCTVs and very sharp and hard scrutiny by the organizers themselves. But there are many, I think, race courses where there's a lot of laxity, and there all sorts of games go on as far as betting is concerned.
Right. So you're saying some sort of...
one did not expect it to be of this scale.
Right. So
I think the scale is really flabbergasting.
Right. So you're saying some sort of preemptive policing is okay, and it's not without, outside the purview of investigative agencies. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, of course. And I think here the organizers have to play a very active part.
Right.
And they have to cooperate fully with the police.
Right, right.
Because I think the subtleties which they know of, a policeman cannot, however much he may try, he would not understand, and he would not be able to make out where deliberate action has been taken, or
Mr. Bhagat,
neglect has been taken, so that the other side is benefited.
Right, Mr. Bhagat, I'll come back to you in just a second. I want to get Pradip Magazine's view on this particular question on a more sociological and philosophical level. So why is it that professional stars, or whatever game, we can take any game around the world, and I want to expand the horizon of the discussion as well. Why has it always been the case that professionals who on the face of it have everything, they have fame, they have money, they're loved, they have respect of the people, you name it. Why does a star like that fall prey to such plots? What is it that makes our sports stars so vulnerable?
I think Rakesh has put it so well. When the society itself, when an individual becomes a consumable item himself, and when an individual is not responsible for his actions to a community or to a state or and all he thinks is that what kind of a money he makes, and modern technology, modern development has reached a stage where no amount of money is enough, because you have on sale things which can cost you from 1 rupee to thousands of crores. So enough is never enough in today's society. So an individual can dream of anything, and whatever money he's earning, he feels it's less. A sportsman, what all does he have? He has his skills. Now his skills are on sale. In a professional league, why does A get more money than B?
Because he's better.
Because he's a better, more skillful player. So when he reaches there, he gets more money, but he sees around him people who are giving him that money, have 1,000 times more money. Somebody else comes along and tells him, look, I'll pay you more than even this. You are very skillful. All you got to do is to do something for me. Don't think of this as a match, as a competition between two sets of skills.
Think of it as an opportunity.
So he has an opportunity to make more. And when he is living in a society where, as I said earlier, more is not, whatever more is there, it's not enough. And he sees everyone around him doing the same thing, he also falls prey to it. So why blame a sportsman alone? It's a kind of society we have evolved into, where this thing is, I think this thing, as Rakesh has put it, that why think that it would not be part of the way society is.
I think it's a vicious cycle that people fall prey to. I want to come to Siddhanth in just a bit, but that's after the break. Lots more coming up on The Big Picture. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to The Big Picture. We, of course, are discussing the scandal that has rocked the world of football. We're also discussing how it will affect other professional team sports as well. My guests have some interesting views. Siddhanth Aney is the editor of Sports Illustrated India. He's with us right now. Siddhanth, would fixing then, according to the evidence that we've seen till now by Europol, would also involve officials and referees as well? Because anyone who watches professional soccer has seen some ridiculous decisions lately, and in big games, in big matches, in big cup matches, cup ties, league matches, in international games, club competitions. The scourge also covers officials then, not just players.
Oh, most definitely. In fact, I would argue that players are less susceptible to this than officials, whether it's referees or federation officials or club owners or people involved in the club structure in different ways. There's an example, everyone remembers this game, Italy's 2-1 loss to Korea.
South Korea, yeah. One of the previous World Cups, I think, in Korea.
Yeah, that was when, It was a big game and it was a huge upset, but the Italians had this thing, and there were some fairly questionable decisions in that game, including a red card for one of the Italian players. That referee, the Ecuadorian referee, was subsequently banned by the Ecuadorian Federation from National League games. And I think he's currently serving jail time in the US for smuggling heroin.
Right.
So, you know, I'm not saying that he took a bribe for that game, or that there are only certain questionable characters. But it lends into a bigger picture where if you start questioning the reality of what you're watching, then the very, very fundamental fabric on which sport as a fan culture and as a society, the basis on which we enjoy sport you start questioning that.
Absolutely.
And that's the end of
And that's the real deal. That was going to be
yeah.
my next question to Rakesh as well. But before I go to Rakesh, in that case, we are saying that referees are more susceptible to, say, crime syndicates and organized crime rings. Then, obviously, we have heard other cases also. I think there's a German referee who was banned as well, and a Bosnian referee who was, charged with fixing a game. Are you saying that it's easier for referees and officials to actually fix matches than, say, players who might, say, take a dive or something like that?
Well, if you look at it purely in terms of numbers, right? To influence a game of football, for example, the result of a game, you might need to talk to, let's say, 5 players on a team, out of which 1 or 2 might be ethically upset by your proposition, and then they might leak it, right? But in football, the referee, the main referee, not the assistants, is in charge of pretty much the whole game.
Yeah.
And his decisions are final until that is then appealed to the match commissioner and the whole appeal process. So on the field, the power that is vested in a referee to control the outcome of a game is much higher. And he has, and therefore, and he is just one person.
Right.
And he's not a professional, largely. So if someone is a school teacher from a small town in England, refereeing games where you have superstars getting paid hundreds of thousands of pounds week in, week out, you can sense for yourself who is more.
Pertinent point. I want to go to Mr. Arun Bhagat first, and then I'll come to you, Rakesh, for another question. Mr. Bhagat, you, of course, have a long, you have experience in policing and investigating matters. Let me put this to you in this particular way. India had the IPL scandal. It had match fixing before, the Cronier episode, the Azharuddin episode, and I can go on as well. But do you think Europol particularly, and European investigative agencies in particular, who are investigating this matter, can perhaps probably take a book from, say, our Indian agencies? What were the ways that we actually cracked the rings and cracked the crime syndicates? Could you share that with us, please?
Well, I don't think there would be much of a similarity because the cultures are so different. Here we are talking about an organization which is sort of has its headquarters or base or in Singapore. Whereas it has a reach onto so many of the European countries. So I don't think there would be, and then the game is entirely different. It is an entirely different game that we are talking about.
Right, right.
You can drop a catch here, you can throw a ball away and not have a run out. And similarly, it is not the similar case as far as football is concerned.
Right.
So there would be, of course, there can be certain parallels. But I don't think that they would gain much from our line or manner of investigation.
Fair point, fair point. I want to go to Rakesh Batabayal now. Rakesh, what seems to be the future outlook for professional sport then? I mean, there's been long-standing suspicion in our country, in leagues like the IPL and what have you, that matches that we see are rigged or fixed or at least scripted. Now, we get the football bombshell. It doesn't look too bright for professional sport, does it?
Actually, you see the way economy and society globally is changing, and we are getting sucked into large and large and large globalized capitalist system. In the sense, I'm using the word capitalist because this is the mode. Now, why is it, and what is the future? Now, so long as certain areas of public sphere has some sanctity, they will have some sanctity of life itself. Now, sports used to bring out, what is the core domain of sports is bringing out your excellence.
Right.
Now that excellence part is gradually
taking a back seat.
Right. And sanctity is going away. So the more and more desanctified sports come in, like IPL, the more you take it out from your community or your nation or your individual responsibility, accountability, it will be more and more of a professional skills and other things. And they will be governed by the same rules as other part of your life is governed, as politics, as administration, or any other thing. So we are actually going to look for a bigger and bigger and bigger public sphere for entertainment called sports.
Right.
So sports will no longer be sports in the sense that it used to be. So we should be ready for a sporting arena which is devoid of a meaning of excellence, that I'm scaling the heights of my potentials, but rather I'm scaling the heights of my skills and skillful devices.
Absolutely. Pradip Magazine, it's not sports anymore, it's always sports entertainment.
See, sports is also entertainment. It's not
But
the fact that
I'm using the two words, consecutively.
see, it survives on spectators. We watch it. That's why sport is becoming bigger and bigger. Now the problem is, as Siddhanth is saying, is that once you realize that what you are watching is scripted, like you are not watching. The greatest thrill of watching a sports match is that you don't know what will follow. Even the best players, the best team loses on a given day. Now suddenly, if you get this suspicion in your mind that what they are doing is planned, then the whole edifice of sports falls. One is the skills you are enjoying, the other is its uncertainty, what happens. So once that realization comes, what does a spectator do? He still watches, like there is this WWF, there is this wrestling arena, he still watches it. Everyone knows that everything is fixed, he watches. So what do? Then you still watch, you still enjoy those skills. It's not as if those skills have been taken away. A skillful player remains a skillful player. Now if he is taking underhand money, if he has performed, see deliberately he has underperformed, because for fixing anything, any sports match, you actually, it's the better the player, he's the one who controls the game.
Yeah, he'll be the target of
because he's the one who can underperform and make money and fix the result of the game. Right. So I think the society, either the society changes, the spectators revolt, which I don't foresee. They're saying that we won't watch a match. Why do they, why should money be the cornerstone of whatever is happening? Let's watch a skillful match. I don't see that revolt taking place. So I think you have to just say that, okay, if so-and-so A player, he is such an outstanding skillful player, even if he's taking money, but at least he has this skill, let me watch it.
But then would you say that sports excellence is in danger now? We'll never see sports excellence anymore. We'll always see sports entertainment.
Look, with something like IPL, if you tinker with the core of a sport, I'm talking here of cricket, not of soccer. So if you take away the skills of cricket for which cricket is known, and you just tinker with it and shorten it and make it something else, obviously then you are like undermining, you are destroying the basic skill of that sport. Right. So that's what IPL has done. It has created cricket into something else. So yes, you have to then realize that maybe you can't have a Tendulkar or a Dale Steyn or a Bradman.
Right.
So that you can't have that. So yes, that is that danger, and that danger will be there with all other sports as well.
And that danger is a very real one. I want to go to Arun Bhagat very quickly, sir, if you can, very briefly. What steps can really be taken to prevent fixing? Suggestions, ideas, thoughts?
Well, God has been trying how long? since the beginning of world, since the beginning of humanity. And he is failing very badly. So I don't think any human being can do it. You see, because what I feel is the fundamental thing. The family is breaking down. There are too many separations, too many divorces, and that is having an impact on the children. I mean, that is the core of the problem. You secure the family, I'm sure there will be value changes automatically.
So, right. Point taken, sir. I want to give the last word on the show to Siddhanth, Aney. We have very little time, Siddhanth. If fans, like you said, get disillusioned and it could mean the end of professional sport as we know it, how do you call this particular one? Where do you see professional sport going from here on end?
I think a lot of things have to change. And one of the changes is, for example, if FIFA bans a player who's involved in fixing for life, it doesn't mean he goes to jail for life. He just can't be involved in football for life. So perhaps Mr. Bhagat will have a perspective on this as well in terms of how we can punish people who are involved in these things.
Right.
But in terms of where sport will go, I honestly, being an optimist, I don't think that the problem is so widespread that it happens at all levels. And why divorce this from society in general? I mean, we see corruption, for example, if we see corruption in the political arena, at least here you're getting to watch a game and you're getting some entertainment out of it. There's not even that. So I think sport will continue, but how it goes forward,
it's anybody's guess. Right. On that note, I must thank... Yeah, we'll wait and watch. We'll see. We'll try and bet on it. Well, we'll have to end the show at this point. I must thank all my guests before I sign off. Arun Bhagat, many thanks for joining us on The Big Picture. Rakesh, Batabayal, Pradip Magazine as well as Siddhanth, Aney. That's all we have time for on The Big Picture. I won't give you any key takeaways this time around. Like Siddhanth said, he's an optimist. Let's just hope for the best. Athar saying goodbye, good night, and thank you for watching The Big Picture.